ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Tech Showdown. My name is Kevin, this is my co-host Teddy, and today we're doing a bit different of a video, and this is just going to be me discussing in my professional opinion what my thoughts are on electric vehicles and the future of electric vehicles. Now I say my professional opinion because as you guys know, I do a lot of technology videos. I know a lot about technology, but also the fact that I have a bachelor's degree in automotive engineering and I have studied electric vehicles quite a bit. I actually made a prototype with another group of guys for a regenerative braking type thing. Regenerative suspension, I'm sorry. So I have studied it quite a bit, and it does have quite a bit of an interest to me. So the first question that a lot of people seem to be asking is, will electric vehicles pretty much kill off gasoline or petrol and diesel vehicles? And for this I say no, because people for the longest time used horses as their primary transport, but you still see people owning horses now. Now, there is a big difference. Horses aren't really used for, primary transport anymore. They're not really used for work. Most of them are just for recreation. And I think that will be the same fate as gasoline and diesel vehicles. They'll be sort of moved down to just being used as leisure vehicles, recreational vehicles, and your electric cars, and that will become the primary transport that people are using to go from A to B. Now, something that needs to be mentioned is that commercial vehicles, I think, will be the more difficult ones to replace with electric, just electric cars. Well, not cars, but, like your trucks, your buses, all of that type of stuff, your vans, your pickups. I think those will be the more difficult ones to replace with an electric substitute, because just the way they are, and that's where I see the biggest stumbling block moving forward. Everyone seems very focused on the personal vehicles, but they need to broaden their minds and realize that there's many other types of vehicles that are on the roads that if electric cars are really going to take over, they're going to have to find a way to replace them. Now, the second question was, what are the main advantages? So for me, I see the main ones as being able to charge at home, which is quite cool. It means you're going to be able to leave your home with a full charge every time, which is quite a cool thing. And that you're only going to be needing to pay for power rather than be paying for gas or diesel all the time. So that's also quite good, and of course the cost then will be significantly less. There's also the fact that they do require very little maintenance by comparison to an internal combustion engine, by the fact that you pretty much only have to look after things that cars now already that you already have to look after, your tires, brakes, suspension, steering components, and that sort of thing. Most electric vehicles now, you don't have to do anything with the electric motors. You don't have to do anything transmission wise if they're running one, and it's that sort of thing. So they're very good in that aspect. There's also the fact that they have special benefits in certain countries or states in terms of tax incentives, but also privileges in terms of being able to use, say, the bus lane or special lanes or special parking, or not having to pay for parking like in some of these European countries. So there's that as well, which I find quite interesting. And of course, the main one that a lot of people will buy them for is the fact that they are claimed to be, eco-friendly. Now, I say claimed because, of course, they're not going to be putting CO2 out the exhaust. However, I do worry that depending on what the country uses to generate its power, are you just substituting that for something worse? Say coal, for example, if it's drawing a lot of power, they have to build more coal power plants to meet the electricity supply. And not only that, but the fact that some of the components, say the lithium-ion batteries, I don't think they can be recycled very well, and I think the way they make the batteries, but also have to get rid of them, is probably not the most environmentally friendly. However, I'm willing to say that I may be wrong about this, and I hope moving forward there are more solid reports on the pros and cons of electric vehicles in terms of the environment. Now, what are the main disadvantages? So the main one that always comes to mind is range, how far you're able to go in your electric vehicle. Now, there has been quite a few advances with electric vehicles now in terms of range and then being able to go further, but it's still not really that good, and it's not anywhere near a very good gasoline vehicle. So that's a big issue with them, and also the charge times will make it that having these charging stations don't really work out that good if you have to end up leaving the car there for hours on end, just waiting for it to charge. It's not really that ideal. So I think range is the big issue right now. And until battery technology gets better, I think it's going to be a constant problem for electric vehicles, because we have good technology with the cars themselves, but the battery technology just hasn't really advanced fast enough to keep up with it. So I think that's the main hindrance right now, is the battery technology. The other thing is the price. Now, I am aware that things like the Model 3 and other electric vehicles are coming down in price, but they are still quite unaffordable for the average person. This will get better over time. It's just the effect with everything. A lot of the richer, or say upper middle class people, or people with a bit of extra money buy the vehicles, and then eventually those vehicles trickle down to the people, and the prices will come down on those vehicles as more and more people buy them, and the technology gets better and cheaper and all that, so that everybody can own them. But for right now, it's still, even with the incentives, it can be quite difficult for some people to afford a electric vehicle. And the last one is a complication. Now, you might think that, wow, that's pretty hypocritical. You just said that they require very little maintenance. Now, that is true, but some of these electric vehicles, such as the Model X, are extremely complicated to make. But not only that, but they'll be very complicated and expensive to repair if something goes wrong. Now, most of you probably know, if you know anything about electric vehicles, that replacing the batteries in them can be insanely expensive depending on which type of electric car you're talking about. But they can be very expensive. So complication-wise, they can be quite complicated in some ways, and when they do go wrong, depending on what it is that goes wrong, they also can be very expensive to fix. But again, this is something that should be addressed in the future. So then, what is my honest professional opinion on electric vehicles? Now, I actually think I quite like them. I think what Tesla's doing in terms of making electric vehicles really cool and styling them cool, making them fast, good performance, all that, is pushing them in the right direction. Because before, we would have these little tiny ugly looking cars that everyone would just think is hideous, and they'd think you have to be a hippie to own one. So I think that's really cool. Tesla's making it cool to own an electric car. So I do like that a lot, but they are still in their infancy, and that's something you shouldn't lose sight of, that they are quite... The idea of an electric car isn't new, but the way they're being sort of brought into the mainstream now is new, and they're still in their infancy, which is something to be aware of. So they really do need time to evolve, get better, especially in the battery technology. And then once they've got up to that, good stage in terms of the charge times, the range, and getting over some of the complication and that, I think it's going to be really, really good, and I think it's going to be very interesting moving forward, because all the things they can bring in terms of driver assist will also be quite interesting. Another thing I studied, which I'm not going to get into too much, but your things like highway assists and being in traffic, and the car drives for you in the traffic, and self-parking, which a lot of vehicles have now, and then ultimately self-driving, which Google and stuff are doing now as well. So I think it's going to be very interesting going forward, because I think electric cars are going to be at the forefront of that technology, just by the fact that they are electric and they've got all this technology in them. I think they're going to be the cars that are going to be coming out with all the self-driving stuff and all of that in the future going forward, because they're going to be the main car people are using at the time that those technologies really get to a really credible state. Now, I thank you all for watching this video. Please leave comments down below. What points do you agree with me on? What points do you disagree with me on? Anything you want to clarify, or things I might have misspoke about. Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd really like to know what you guys think. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.